I'll be joined later by Alex Kinnati, who is the PR for the Ghana National Fire Service, who is online currently. ADO1 Alex Kinnati, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So as mentioned, we're going to have a general conversation about rainfall, flooding, and what we are going to do or supposed to do. Rainfall and flooding is not new to us. At least from even our primary school, we're told that there are two seasons only in Ghana, the dry season and the wet season. So we are short of the fact that each year we'll have the dry season, we'll have the wet season. But it looks like anytime our wet season comes, there's just a problem created for it. That which is supposed to be a blessing rather becomes a bane. And maybe let me start with you, King Nate. From where you sit, what really do you think is our problem with this whole flooding issue?
So I'll say it's an attitudinal problem. You'd think that as humans, as we advance or as the years go by, people would advance in their thinking, people would advance in their approach towards things. It's unfortunate that we are retrogressing rather. You realize that people have little disregard for waste management during rains. It's very disheartening to see people bringing out their refuse, during the rains and pouring it in these drains. When it happens like that, it ends up choking the drains. The government is doing their best, trying to create more drains. But then, as a people, if we don't change our attitude and we keep dumping refuse in these drains, they'll end up being choked. As a service, most of the time when there's floods, we go in. And when we go in to create space, we try to look through the drains and break some of these gutters. And the things we see is very disheartening. You'll be surprised that some of these solutions are as little as being able to just clear a drain and then the whole water goes. But then human nature, human actions or inactions are largely part of the reasons why we are where we are.
Interesting, and that's even a very worrying incident, because again for so many years this pouring of waste, I mean, has been at the forefront of our conversation on flooding. But can I ask, when it's not the rainy season, let's say the dry season, when we still see people pouring these waste onto our streets or into our gutters, isn't there supposed to be an institutional remedy, that is maybe whether from the government or the requisite agency? Shouldn't they step in to ensure compliance, to prevent people from doing these things, so that by the time it rains, as you mentioned, would have a clear drainage? Because it will be unfair to you at your end that it's raining, maybe there's some fire outbreak, you step in, and now you have to go in to go and clear drainage first. Shouldn't the institutions take on this as a challenge to whether enforce the law or crack the whip when the rains are not in, so that by the time the rains coming, would have been, quite prepared for it?
Well, I would say, it's supposed to be an interagency collaboration where different agencies have their key roles to play. We've not been having a lot of some of these institutions setting up to do their work, unfortunately. Then again, as a people, we have to cultivate the habit of naming and shaming. People who stay with people and see some of these things that the people do, instead of calling them out, are often very shy of reprisal attacks on them, or are shy that, or are scared that people will see that they are the ones reporting them. But they have to know that when it goes, it will come back to them. And so as a people, in the agencies responsible, you find, especially these markets, you find most of these assemblies more interested in taking their tolls more than being able to make sure that wherever the people are sitting doing their business is a clean environment. The people feel they've paid the toll, so they end up littering the place. And when they litter, these garbage or refuse end up getting into these drains. besides taking the tools, they are going the extra mile, ensuring and making sure that the people who are selling are responsible for the sanitation close by. But then, if they also look on, someone might be probably selling maize or any other thing. They give these people single-use plastics, which is also another very worrying situation. They serve their food or they serve the item the person is buying in a single-use plastic. The person just brings out the item and then just throws it on the floor over there. So imagine the person selling to about 50 people, all of them disposing of their single-use plastic. The person will not feel the responsibility of packing these single-use plastics and these things. So imagine if they're even selling 50 a day times in a month 30. We are looking at well over hundreds of what's it called? Hundreds of single-use plastics choking these gutters. So I believe that assemblies need to go a step further, ensuring that beyond taking these market tools, they are making sure that the people over there are being held responsible for the sanitation at where they sell.
Interesting. Now let's zoom into your main area on fire. I mean, I find it quite should I say that I find some irony in waterfall or rainfall and fire, because typically water is used in quenching fire, but in some areas, I mean, maybe let's go a little back to even the June 3rd disaster, and I know subsequently there's been a few around. Why do we have such situation where when it's raining, when we think about every other thing, we also start thinking about fire?
Well, so I'm glad you mentioned June 3rd. And that should draw attention to the fact that water does not quench every fire. And that if water could quench every fire, we wouldn't have recorded the unfortunate disaster that we did on that day. Fires involving oil, fires involving gas, fires involving electricity. These fires get even worse when water is introduced. And so that's why the to-do fire when we went, our officers were being careful not to quickly go and just throw water in the fire because there was a lot of gas cylinders in there. And so pouring water on these gases would rather exacerbate the situation rather than quenching it. And then also, on the contrary, when people think that during rains, fire service gets a holiday, on the contrary, we record much more fires during the rainy season than even the dry season because electrical fires are rife. We see a lot of, even with these thunder strikes, thunder is a form of energy.
Yeah.
And so if there's a thunder strike and your house is not equipped with a good FM system or is not equipped with a good lighting arrestor that's able to subdue the excess power and then pull the excess power underground, it will end up starting a fire at home. When there's rains, we record a lot of power surge. People will see low current, high current. These low current, high currents can start a fire if you don't have a good electrical installation at home. We record a lot of electrical fires when your roof is leaking and you have naked wires also lying on the floor. We record a lot of electrical fires when you see all these videos with homes submerged. We know that our electrical sockets most of the time are below. And so imagine you stay in a house where you have your electricity and your house gets submerged in the rain. Obviously, water is entering inside these electrical circuits and then can give off sparks, which can invariably start a fire. So during the rains, we do record a lot. Even yesterday, today, we go for so many fires. We record no less than 20 fires in Accra and Tema alone in a day.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
But with these issues, I mean, you made mention of, is it the electrical arresters? I mean, these were, in fact, many of us thought that they were just colonial buildings which had those. Because when you see many of the very older buildings, you see something on top of the building, like it's pointed like a 3-pointed arrow sort of thing. Or we are told that when the lightning is able to split the scientists tell us split the ion, something, transmit it to the ground. But over time, we are taught that it's not something that is really necessary for a lot of homes. And admittedly, many homes do not have it today. Do you think it's something we should go back to?
But yes, that's why I mentioned that it's regrettable that um, even though we are advancing, thinking that there will be more advancement in our thinking, we are rather retrogressing. It's just like even with hydrants. You realize that back then, as kids, we all used to see hydrants every few meters away.
Yeah.
We all wonder what it is used for. Today, that we are supposed to be more advanced in our thinking and in our lifestyle, people are rather destroying these hydrants,
By
which are
hydrants,
supposed
you
to
mean those things on the ground that the fire service, I think you draw water from it,
yes,
right?
exactly my point.
Yeah.
So you realize that in recent days or recent years, you don't see it around because people have encroached on it. So it's the same like this lighting arrestor. Back then, you know, if we should revisit the past, be able to protect our hydrants, be able to come up with lighting arresters, these things would be able to ensure that we record less fires. But that's when we think that we are more advanced in thinking, we are rather retrogressing. So we, as a service, always advise people to get these lightning arresters and a good earthing system at home so that during the rains and there's lighting, you're able to protect yourself from fires.
Mm. Right, thank you. I'd hold a thought here and come to Dr. Williams, just for your general thoughts. Yes, I know flooding is not your biggest trend, but just general thoughts of what we are seeing, especially in Accra. I mean, we have seen even just now in incoming, just these small rains. You see floods, some cars can move, see some cars stuck elsewhere. What are just your preliminary thoughts?
I think generally it has been mainly due to the way development has taken place. And the biggest driver of flooding is water being impeded and not being able to flow as it's naturally meant to do. When rain comes, naturally you expect that some of it will be able to percolate into the ground and you'd have some also as runoff. But when the runoff, the percolation is not enough and you're having most of it as runoff, that's where you are experiencing some sort of flash flooding. And this has been increased, the risk of this has been increased due to the amount of impermeable surfaces that we keep seeing on the rise, especially in the capital. Today we look more of aesthetics rather than functions. So when we put up a house, we are more interested in tiling up the entire place rather than investing in lawns. Unfortunately, I do not know because maybe we do not want to do the maintenance when it comes to the grass and the lawn, so we'd rather...
In the land size now.
It's more convenience to concrete and tile every single aspect of this house than have some...
If you take the old land measurements, like our parents when they built, you can have, our parents could buy 2 plots. His house is just at one side. He can maintain a whole lawn. But now if you look at the land size giving, where is your car going to be parked for you to go and maintain a lawn,
I mean, it also feeds into the design.
Yeah.
If you have a deliberate effort to put up a green space within your house, I feel it is possible because you can't also expect to develop every single aspect of your house, put up a house without actually putting up a space. If you have kids, where do you expect them to play? How do you expect living creatures to also dwell within this particular space? So that's what I say. There should be a deliberate effort into the planning of the spaces. As it stands now, okay, even let's look within Accra. Previously, let's look at the greenness of the place. Let's look at places, parks and stuff like that. Now, we are left with very few green spaces in Accra. And some of these green spaces that are left are literally cemeteries. And even if we are not careful, those cemeteries, before we realize, will be exhuming bodies.
But they've started.
All right. So you know where I'm drifting towards.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that we should be looking at. And also, when it comes to even the construction of the drains, most of the times we put up the roads and later we see that we are digging the sides to begin the construction of the drains. Are the sides of the drains fit for those purposes? You'd have people putting up drains, and even where the drains are constructed, in places where people want to do modifications or even put up houses, someone would come. At times, previously, they were even doing it in the middle of the night. Now, in the broad daylight, someone would come with a tipper truck, come and tip his aggregates, his gravel, his sand, and the entire gutter is blocked because he's doing his own...
For months,
because he's doing his own building project. And if the gutter is blocked, where do you expect the water to go to? Obviously, these drains are going to overflow. They are going to compound the effects which naturally should have been diverted elsewhere, and it's going to lead to flooding in several places.
Intriguing. Now let me come into your space also of the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Now the rains have come. We have seen flooding. I'd mentioned earlier that typically the meteo, your statistics were not always reliable. I won't say accurate. They're not always reliable. Sometimes you get the statistic, work fully with it, or you cancel or say, no, today it's not going to rain. Then you realize that you get a higher sunshine. But again, as I mentioned, this year you guys have gotten your flowers. Now, tell us, for my generation, the generation above, I can assure you, they may not even listen to what you're saying. Now, people easily will go on, what's the name, Google, and I think, or go on AI. I'm sure AI may source some information from you and from around, but now we may trust in AI a bit more. The rains are in. You're giving us a lot of statistics. Now, tell us, one, where do we get your information from? Where do we get your reliable information from first?
Okay. First of all, let me appreciate that at least, if not for anything, you are appreciating the efforts that the Ghana Meteorological Agency is doing to be able to enhance preparedness and
for this year, as I said, we give you
action.
that flower. This year, you have done well.
I wouldn't want to limit it to this year.
And your predictions have come true accurately.
I feel that for the history of the agency, we've been doing what we can.
Okay.
I do admit that weather predictions generally is a probability. So you stand to benefit when the probability is a bit higher. You expect that your predictions would come true. That is not to say that in the past we were not necessarily giving good predictions, but it is in the event of the frequency of certain things happening that people's attention now begins to go. And I think it is one of the things also that probably we had not done as effectively as we're doing now by putting ourselves out there for people to know where the information is and also keep abreast with the happenings when it comes to weather information. Previously, when we talk about the frequency, probably you would have heard of us only once during the day, and that would have been maybe after the GTV news or something, where we'll present the weather forecast. Between that time and the next bulletin, a lot would have happened. So you wouldn't expect that exactly what he would have said would have come to pass.
They'll tell us that night. They'll tell that this night we should experience a thunderstorm and light showers. Nothing will happen.
No, you see, so that is what I'm coming to. So if I say experience thunderstorms, lightning or whatever, we have not gone, even as at now, although the predictions and the information is improving, we have not gotten to the point where we are expecting to have, let's say, location-based forecasts. As we sit here today, you did mention that we experienced some rainfall and it's still moving. Yesterday, I must admit, we were expecting some amount of rainfall.
But it was very sunny.
No, it rained in the afternoon.
Okay, which part? Because it didn't rain in my area.
It rained in the afternoon, and that is what we are talking about. So if I say it's going to rain, I'm only going to identify a wide area where we are expecting it to rain. And it's always going to vary with different form of intensities. So in, let's say, East Legon, we might have heavy rain. In, let's say, Adenta, it might be slight to moderate. In Kwashiman, it might not rain at all. But all these areas form part of Accra. So if I tell you it's going to rain in Accra, which part of Accra am I now referring to? So if you just base it on your area, the GMET forecast becomes wrong. But for someone in Adenta, the GMET forecast is very accurate. And that feeds into the amount of information that we are getting, the data being collected, and the logistics that we use also to predict this kind of information. That is what I'm talking about. So now what we've done is that we've increased the frequency at which we release the forecast. And the closer it is to the event, the more reliable the forecast becomes. If I tell you today that it's going to rain next week Sunday, the probability that is going to happen might be a bit low. But if I tell you today that the next hour is going to rain, there's a certain level of certainty that comes with it. Even with that, again, you've admitted that these times, even when we say normally we release our weekly Outlook on Monday evenings for the rest of the week. On Monday, when we released it, we said we were going to have some showers on Tuesday towards the midweek and then into the weekend. And you see today we're already receiving some amount of rain. Maybe later in the day we'll see some more showers also. So this is how we are trying to improve the information reaching out to the public, and we'll keep encouraging that people would continue to identify some of these platforms where we put out this information and follow them. It is often when an event doesn't happen, it is almost like people are looking for you to say, aha, they said it and it didn't happen, and then they start to crucify you.
For that, I can assure you people were willing to do that. So
But
this way,
no one really comes out to say it's when it happens. When we predict and it happens, but that is your work. Are you not supposed to tell us? So the work becomes very difficult. It is high risk but low reward.
Interesting. But then, I mean, going back to my question, one, where can we get your reliable information? So today, if I want to check, this evening I'm going out, I want to find out whether it's going to rain or not, where can I go?
Okay, so the primary source of our information will start with our website. That is meteo.gov.gh, meteo.gov.gh. So every information that is produced by the Ghana Meteorological Agency is on our website. And if you go to our website, you look at the section of the products and services, you find it there. So every single day we release the forecast 4 times a day, and this forecast is valid for 18 hours. What I mean by 18 hours, because we are releasing it 4 times a day, it's released 6 hours. So the one that will be released in the morning is valid from 6 a.m. The morning forecast, 6 a.m. to 12 noon. But you are going to have the morning forecast, you're going to have the afternoon forecast, and then you are going to have the evening forecast also embedded in there. So it's a 6-hour cycle of 6 hours for 3 periods. That's why we say it's an 18-hour forecast. When it's released in the afternoon also, you see afternoon, evening, and then the night, which is the midnight forecast, which we've introduced now. So every forecast that is released goes for an 18-hour cycle. We push it a lot also through our social media.
Yes, I was going to ask about whether you do so, because I'm on your website now, and the information there, to be frank, I don't understand. Because let's say I see today, 13 June, 10 o'clock, I see 28.6 degrees Celsius, 77.3%, 0.0 millimeters, I guess, 2.5 M/S. I don't know what it means. If for me, a lay person, I look at this information, I don't know whether it's going to rain or it's not going to rain.
So the information that is put out there, every information has its own unique audience. So, for example, if we have what we call the impact-based forecast, and then we have the city forecast, the impact-based forecast gives you the likelihood of that hazard that you're expecting. The hazards are a lot, but unfortunately, we are only interested in the rainfall. So we could have even dust during Harmattan. You could have windy conditions. You could have rainfall. So the likelihood of that hazard occurring as compared to the impact. So that is what we call the impact-based forecast. So you normally see a Ghana map with shaded colors in there. So you see parts, at times you see a green with a cloud in there. So that means that the hazard that has been identified for that day is probably rain. If you see the cloud with some rain in there. And then you see a green, and it's all color-coded. So if it's white, it means that there's no risk or nothing is going to happen. It would move. You have the green, low risk. You have the yellow. You have the orange. So it is increasing in order of severity. Then when it comes to the city forecast, that is where you see the towns. Aflao, Accra, Anloga, Cape Coast, Koforidua. And then you see something, TSRA. You see cloudy. You will see sunny. So those are generally the conditions that you should expect within that particular period. So TSRA will just mean you have a legend at the bottom. That would mean thunderstorm with rain. So thunderstorm with rain is different from rain. So rain is just your normal showers that you see. But a thunderstorm with rain means that you have some accompanying sounds and lightning coming.
Like what we are having now.
Exactly. Exactly. And so you go to our social media handles on X, at Ghana Meteorological Agency. You would find us there. If you go to Instagram, we are there. Again, Ghana Meteorological Agency. On YouTube, you find a lot of our videos explaining some of the weather patterns, some of the symbols that we use, and the particular features that come in our forecast. We also have TikTok. We are also on LinkedIn. We are on almost all the social media handles. And most importantly, the one that a lot of people patronize is the WhatsApp.
Okay.
So we have a lot of WhatsApp groups. We call it the Let's Talk Weather WhatsApp group. But for convenience, to be able to join the WhatsApp group, you need someone to either add you or you need the number to be able to join. So we've also created a WhatsApp channel that you could literally just search for and join. And that is Ghana Meteo then agency. And that is our WhatsApp channel. So if you search for it, you'll be able to find it. And hopefully we will share the QR code and the link also with you, with your listeners, so that they can, for those who are following online, live streaming or whatever, or you can paste it on, you can just scan it and then you get updates as soon as the forecast is put out there. But notwithstanding, even with these forecasts 4 times a day, we are also able to give you regular updates. Because, as I keep saying, the weather is not static. Even between the 6-hour period, something can happen. The weather event, something, a system can generate from somewhere. And people still need to be alerted of that particular issue that is going to happen. So we give you a weather update or a weather warning. And with the weather warning also, I'm glad you also mentioned that people rather go to Google or AccuWeather or whatever. With our weather warnings that we issue, we have something that we call the Common Alerting Protocol. And that has been integrated into Google. So if a weather warning is issued right now, and you should go on any Google weather application, you would see a red triangle, which will indicate something. If you click on it, you would see the weather warning information. At the bottom, you would see provided by the Ghana Meteorological Agency. So Google carries that on our behalf for Google Public Weather Alerts. Also, with these weather alerts, if you go to other platforms like windy.com, you receive those weather alerts over there. On Meteo Blue, you receive it there. The Faster app, the WMO Severe Weather Platform, amongst others. You receive our information on all these platforms. But if you want to receive it locally, you just want to go and check the previous alerts that have been issued. You go to meteo.gov.gh/alert. So all the alerts that we issued are published over there. And it also gives you the severity that you should expect, whether it's minor, severe, or even extreme, with regards to the particular places that will be affected by that particular weather update. And most importantly, what you should expect and what you should do. So if we are expecting, let's say, torrential rainfall, extreme heavy rainfall, that's going to lead to, let's say, flooding. You have certain alerts, especially when it's coming with thunderstorm and lightning. Unplug your electrical devices. Do not drive through flooded areas. Watch out for certain drains. Move to highlands and stuff like that. These are all advisories also that are given together with that information.
Thank you. We are going to come back to you to now look into the specifics, what we should expect, the raining patterns. Is it going to get better and all that? We're going to come back to you. But let me turn my attention to King Nate. So you had mentioned that now our buildings are deteriorating. We are not putting fire measures. But let me ask you, I know by law, especially for public buildings or properties, they will need some fire permits from you. As part of the permits, don't you check these things, like to check whether the properties are fire compliant before issuing these permits to them?
So you realize that we give out the fire permits, but then again, the safety of the building goes beyond the Ghana National Fire Service. We serve on some committees, but when it gets to some of the major decision-taking committees within some of the assemblies, sometimes we are excluded. We can make our recommendations. We can highlight some risk, but then people are always able to find a way around the system and then get some MC or DC to override some of the decisions we take. That's why I mentioned that it's an interagency collaboration. We can do our part, But if other agencies who are supposed to help us make our work easier are not doing it, it makes our work because 90. Because even with these fuel stations, when they're when they are discharging their fuel into their underground tanks, ideally there's supposed to be a fire officer present. But what do we see? Nothing of that sort. That's why we recorded such a fire even a few days ago on the motorway. So, as a service, our mandate or our authority or power is limited. And so we are hoping that with some amendments, more power can be given to us so that when we say no, no means no.
But with fire being, a very critical issue, fire is not a thing we can play with. Shouldn't your institution maybe be a little proactive? Maybe the little powers you have, shouldn't you be a little proactive, whether by advocacy or by the use of the little power you have? In this regard, so let's say that even if a DC has taken a decision contrary to what your permit rules require, you still will have that power to insist if you find out, or if you, let's say you are going around and you discover it, to insist that the right thing is done, because your powers also are powers from the parliament. They're statutes based.
Yes, you're very right. But you see, when it gets to a certain, as I said, there are some subcommittees and there are some committees within these assembly structure that we sometimes are on, and there are some that we are not on it. And so when they have some of the other committee which has other agencies on it but doesn't have fire service on it, it means that you're not even there to defend your action or to defend your recommendation. But either way, as a service, we've been proactive. There's been, even with the building collapse, the Usu one, for instance, opposite the XYZ, for instance, someone from XYZ reached out, and then I informed our leadership, and quickly we got on the grounds. So as a service, we are proactive, but then again, there are limited resources. We don't even have pickups for our district commanders to be using. Not to talk about pickups that would ensure that our officers are able to go around, being able to ensure that the right thing is being done. So beyond, we are doing our best within the limited resources we have. It's not an excuse, but then we are hoping that when we're able to get some resources and much more support coming in, less political interference, so to speak, I believe we'll be able to make some headway.
Now, you mentioned you touched on resources. There's a shortage of resources. Earlier I was hitting Dr. Williams that until recently, they met you when they say anything, I would just take with a pinch of salt. You also will notice that with the Ghana Fire Service of late, that thing also has started coming up. When they go to, let's say, turn off fire, they'll get there with their trucks and see there's no water. And they go around looking for water. Sometimes it may take an hour or two. By the time it comes, that the situation would have gotten out of hand. In your earlier submission, you mentioned that people are building and they build on water hydrants and what have you. All of these, again, especially when these are your primary tools of working, shouldn't you whether start a campaign or crack the whip on such people who do these things? Because one person cannot hijack the interests of the whole community.
So you see, the thing about we coming to a fire sale without water, we've always said it's never true. How much is fuel and how much is water that would come to a scene that we are coming to see before we go and fetch water? No. As I said, water cannot quench every fire. So when we get there, we do an assessment. And based on the assessment, if we realize that it's an electric fire involving maybe electricity, we can't just go pouring water on it. We would have to now call on ECG to cut power supply to the area before we're able to safely apply water on it. We had such a situation last year at Nima. We were fighting a fire where our officers were getting electric shocks. So they had to call on ECG to cut power supply to the area. A lot of times there's a lot of delay when it comes to such situations. So 2 young men decided to collect the branch from our men. As I speak to you, one of them is dead. The other one went into coma. I don't know if he survived or he died. Again, as I was still talking about the to-do fire, you realize that it was gas. Pouring water into the gas is just like cooking at home. when your food is on the pot and the pot is overflowing and the water pours on the gas, you realize that doesn't quench the gas. It rather even makes it worse. And so there are fires that when we get there, we have to make an assessment. And so we don't just get down and then go into the fire scene just like that. Then again, also, there's the issue of what we call pump failure. A lot of these fire tenders are old, way old, some are even more than 15 years old. And some of these fire tenders go as much as 2, 3, 4 fires in a day. When they go for these fires, the engines are on. The engines are never turned on. We have one called wear and tear. You can get to the scene in the morning, do all your checking, do your assessment, you get there, and the pump that is supposed to propel or give force for the water to come out through the hose can malfunction because the tenders are old. That's how come when sometimes people say we didn't bring water, we can open and then people can come with buckets. So they say we didn't bring water. There's never been a time we've never been able to quench fire. So when they say that, it's very unfortunate. Then again, also with the hydrant situation, we've been having hydrant task force. You see, and as I said, we can't do it all. Who are those giving permits to people who are siting their shops or their buildings on these hydrants? Fire service cannot take the blame always. No. Because at the end of the day, unless someone from the assembly sits comfortably in his office and signed off a permit without going to check whether where the person has a permit is sitting on the hydrant. And so when the person goes there and there's a hydrant there, he or she feels he's got the permit from the assembly. And so he or she feels they can destroy or do anything to the hydrants because the assembly has given them the chance. So as a service, we are limited in our powers, in our resources. And so we can't do it. Just like even with our brothers, the police, until someone reports a crime, they don't know, it takes a while for them to know there's a crime. So it becomes, just like when we get to a scene and we are being attacked or we are being obstructed, we call on the police. And so it's an interagency collaboration. We can do our part. But if the other agencies who are supposed to come together to make sure that we are all on the same page, my brother, we can do, we'll do, and still people will not do their part, and it will be cost 90.
It's interesting you give this dynamic to, this fire issue, because you see, or maybe there should be, and as maybe also because you are from the PR department, maybe there should be a lot of PR and education in this regard, because until now, and the general impression of fire service that when they come, they don't have water. Now, you are rightfully explaining that there probably may be another issue. Maybe you realize there's something more you need to quench the fire. But I don't know how the information goes out. They'll just say, the fire truck, they just left. They came, they left, and they said they don't have water. They're going to look for water. When they come back they'll come back with a tank, and now they start spraying some water. Maybe from what you're saying, it may be something you just went to look for. But the PR then now against your institution is quite... a little bit more of your work is not being done, or that basic tool you need to, or our understanding is that we quench fire with water. So maybe don't you think that a little bit more of education should go into this to the public, and also education into the building of on water hydrant, because it's your property or it's government's property allocated to you. Shouldn't a bit more education go into this so that now the people we can regain some trust in fire service?
My brother, believe it or not, we take advantage of every platform to do education. Just like when I was called in, I'm very sick, but then I feel it's an opportunity to educate the public.
Oh, so sorry, and we really appreciate it.
Don't worry. We take advantage of every platform. If you go on our Facebook page, you see the education drive that our officers in various districts embark on. What hurts is that people have a very nonchalant attitude towards the fire service. See, last 2 years or 3 years, 3FM and us, we collaborated to have a market drive at Dome Market. I was so sad. The market women didn't mind us. And I said it point blank that, look, if there's fire, it will take a long time for us to come. Not because we deliberately delay, but because looking at the whole Dome, Taifa, Kwabenya, through to Brekusu, Ashoman Estate, we don't have a single fire station there.
Wow.
So if there's a fire, the next available fire tender would either come from Medina or Amasaman or Abelenke, which is even currently out of commission. And so they were not listening. I'm telling you, that same night, our 7 markets caught fire. And so we do our best, but people have a nonchalant. People choose to want to live in their life, and it makes our work very difficult. We take advantage. Just we are on TV or radio every single time, but yet still. And you see, with our water tank, when when we have the pressure coming out, within 2 minutes or at most 3 minutes, less than 5 minutes, the water will get finished.
Mm.
Yes, at full bar, at full pressure. So that is why, again, even when there's obstruction, it makes our water finishes early. Because when there's obstruction, we have to lay a much longer hose, or we have to stand far and open at full bar, which means that the water is deteriorating much quickly. Within 2-3 minutes, the water can get finished. It's not a sea, it's not a river, it's a tank. And when you see the big tank like that, it doesn't contain all water. There are tools that we work with. That is why the hydrant is supposed to be a good substitute for us to work with, so that the hydrant or the water in the tank is just supposed to be a substitute for when the hydrant is not working.
Okay.
Ideally, the hydrant is supposed to be working, but then people have encroached. So when the fire tender comes and it opens at full bar, because you're not getting access to the seat of fire, and we have to stand at a distance and through the water, it depletes the water so quickly. Within 2-3 minutes, the water is done. And that's the true painful reality. And so we have to call for other fire tenders. So when the other fire tender comes, people will say, oh, the car came, it didn't have water in it. No, because they don't know our job. When the second car comes, it then feeds water to the first car, for the first car to continue fighting the fire. Then the second car will now go back again to get more water and come back to the fire scene.
Mm.
And so when people do not understand our job and they just don't want to listen, it makes our work very difficult. The reason to do fire, you said they'll complain, they didn't bring water, but there's never been a time when the Ghana National Fire Service has never been able to quench a fire. There's never been a time. So where from this lies? Because, excuse me, we don't use sand to quench the water. We always use water to fight the fire. So where from this misconception that we come without water? It's not fair.
Indeed, and I'm glad you're clarifying this, because even for me until now, because I'd experienced one fire in my area, some time back. The car came, a few minutes, they left, and what everybody was saying that the car said they didn't have water. They came back after about 45-50 minutes. We saw them spraying water out, so we tend to believe what the people were saying.
Let me make this quick example. Last year there was a fire at Moose of Anko, the wood factory there. We didn't have any hydrants close by. Our men had to move all the way to Farisco at Adabraka to go and replenish and come back. So when we get to a scene and people and there are limited hydrants around, it means that we have to now travel far. And I'm sure with what you experienced, I'm sure you saw them spraying water, just that the water didn't keep long, right? And then they left. That's it. Because so when we get there, when the officer in charge gets to the scene and based on assessment, we'll now call that make pump 2 or make pump 3, means that the fire is very serious. So we need more fire tenders to help us with the situation over there. So I'll be glad to host Z at one of our fire stations. You stay with us, or we can deliberately go to any of our stations that have their fire tenders broken down. Then we'll open the tank and see. Or maybe your team can go to any fire station. Tell them that the PR department have asked you to come there, and then for them to open the tank for you to see if there's water or there's no water. And our officers will gladly do that for you to see. So that's a challenge I'm throwing to your station.
Right, we'll be happy to take that challenge up. My producer is here. He's going to certainly make the necessary arrangements so we can at least give the necessary spotlight to the work you are doing, and for us to be able to highlight the challenge we have. Because now in this rainy season, as you mentioned, each day we record about 25 to 30 fires, which is quite on a high side. That in a week we're looking in excess of 200 fires, which will have to see how best we position the fire service to be able to give us the needed support. I'm going to come back to you.
Let me just chip this in quickly. And you see, as I mentioned with the assemblies, a lot of assemblies are not helping. We don't have a lot of fire stations within communities, so it makes our response time much longer. Look at a big area like La Paz, Achimota. We don't have a single fire station there. The whole of Dome Kwabenya, all through to Musu, Kutu, Brekusu, we don't have a single fire station over there. And so when there's a fire at, there was a fire last 2 weeks at Kingsley, and the car had to move all the way from industrial area, STC, around 4 5 p.m. We know the rush hour to go to Kingsley to quench fire. What time would they get there? And they'll say the fire service will call them 1 hour and they didn't come. Have you bothered to ask? At the point, our fire tender in Sawim was out of commission for a long while. When there was a fire in Sawim, we had to now move a car either from Amasaman or from Suhum to go to Sawim to fight these fires. So you see, there are legitimate concerns that are affecting us. That's why we've been making a clarion call for retooling. Because if we have enough fire tenders, and the assemblies also take responsibility to build fire stations, because it's not the job of the Ghana National Fire Service to build fire stations. The assemblies are supposed to build the fire stations within the communities, and then the Ghana National Fire Service would now take personnel there to man these stations. But the assemblies are not helping. And so it makes our response time much difficult. And when there's no access for us to fight fire, they say we came without water. It's very unfair.
Indeed. We're going to come back to you for to look at what we should start doing, especially in this season, for us as citizens, what we can start doing to help the fire service to reduce the fire outbreaks in this rainy season. But I'm going to turn to Dr. Williams. Now the rains have come. We gave you your flowers that you predicted right. So now we are accustomed to following your lead. Now today is the 13th of June. Some people are saying that the rains are going to continue till October. I've heard October before. Some people are saying somewhere in August. What should we expect? Are the rains going to get better? Have we seen the highest yet? Or we should expect even stronger rain, more torrential rains? From when should we expect now having maybe a full 1 month without rains?
Very much. I think I would always like to make reference to our seasonal forecast. It is one of the products that we issue every year. And so within the course of the year, we issue the seasonal forecast. Because I'm happy also that you did identify that we have 2 seasons in Ghana. Normally we would refer to the rain season and the dry season. But the details of it is that we have 2 rainy seasons in the southern sector and 1 in the northern sector. So in the southern sector, you are going to have the major rainy season, and that is what we are seeing now. And then you would have the minor rainy season. So in between these 2 seasons also, the rainy season for the northern sector is going to be fixed in between these particular 2 rainy seasons of the southern sector. And so that is why you'd normally would call rainy season and dry season. But if we are talking technically, you'd also want to break it down. And what we do is that we do analysis on a 3-month rolling window. So with the forecast that we released in February, we said that we are looking at the period of March, April, May. That is the first 3 months. Then you go to April, May, June. Then May, June, July, August, and so on. And so you are looking at the forecast within this particular window, after which you are expecting a certain break between July and August. And then you'd have the rains pick up again as we go to within September and October, within that period of the year. And so normally our forecasts are designed in this way. So in the early parts, you'd expect that you hear certain terms, like we are going to expect near normal, above normal, or below normal rainfall. And for the March, April, May window, we advise that we are going to see near normal to below normal. And when we say that, we are only comparing it to what has happened over the past 30 years. So if you receive rainfall within a certain amount over a certain period, that now becomes your baseline to which you do the comparison against. So what we have forecasted this year, the amounts that we are going to see, how does it compare to the trends that we've seen so far? And we can all admit that within the March, April, probably May window, we didn't see so much when it comes to the frequency and the intensity of rainfall. The forecast for this period, and that's why we say the peak of the rainy season, comes within the end of May into June, and if we are lucky, maybe even into July. So normally you expect that we have what we call cessation where we expect the rains to end within certain times of the year, and it also differs. So you look at the southeastern sector, you look at the central coast, you look at the western coast, you look at the forest areas. All these particular areas have different times in which you expect the rains to cease, but normally it's going to go between early July to late July, and some parts even entering into August. But within these periods, you're also expecting that there will be some days where you are going to experience, let's say, moderate to heavy rains, and some days you are going to expect very slight rains over this particular period. But now, like we indicated, we are now more or less within the peak, after that, you would expect that the frequency and then intensity of the rainfall would now begin to reduce.
But from what you are saying now, the peak, we should expect going out of the peak somewhere in July.
Yes.
So it means that for this month of June and July, we should expect very heavy rainfall.
Yes. Very simple answer. Yes.
That's hard. Now, from where you sit, do you think that the rains this year have been, should I say, stronger or torrential than the previous year? Some people, if you check a lot of comments on social media, they keep saying climate change is here, and they say the ice are melting, and that's why the rains are coming a bit more.
So when we talk about climate change, we are looking at climate change within a certain number of years. You can't expect changes between this year and last year because you saw something this year you didn't see last year, and you attribute it to climate change. But normally, even between years, we have what we call variability or some differences, because you are always not expecting the same conditions to prevail. But if you look at the average, and normally this is computed over a 30-year period, how different is it from what was happening, that average? And that is what you use to tell us whether it is climate change or not. And we've heard a lot of commentary in the news, especially people will talk about climate change, for instance, and the amount of rainfall now is nothing compared to what we used to see in the past, and so it shouldn't be causing rainfall and all that. And all that I'll say is that, where are they getting the data from? I am the meteorological agency, and I collect data at various stations across the country. So people keep mentioning certain figures and putting numbers, statistics out there. But what you do is you make reference to the standardized stations that is collecting the information. Normally, you'd expect that when you receive some amount of rainfall in Accra, you know that there's trouble coming, because naturally the carrying capacity and within certain period is too much. So you should expect some amount of flood. We also admit that because there has been some sort of urban development, these situations now will change. So with even less amount of rainfall, you should expect some sort of flooding, but it should be put within a certain perspective. Yes.
If as you bring in a lot of flood, I was going to channel flood questions to you, but you made it clear to me that your job is just to predict.
Yes. So you see, and that is where I'm also happy that the PRO for the National Fire Service also mentioned this. Collaboration is key, and each agency has its mandates. So when it comes to us, you have the Ghana Meteorological Agency, which is going to give you the outlook for the season. So we take our part, and what we try to do is give you early warning information. So as of February, we had predicted these events of June. So we've given you 3 to 4 months in advance what you should expect. And then we collaborate with certain institutions to give advisories. So for Agric, because we are going to say that this is the time the rains are going to start, Agric now takes a cue, and that is where the collaboration starts, to advise farmers. The rains are going to start in May. So this is where, let's say in April, start preparing your land. By May, when the rain starts, you can start planting. And so then it doesn't go to waste effort. We also tell you the length of the season. This season is going to be, let's say, 90 days, where you are going to get constant rain before the break comes, before the minor season sets in. So it is for you also to identify, and this is what we do with the Ministry of Agric and an initiative, a project called the Food Systems Resilient Project at the FSRP. We plan a crop calendar together with them. So for farmers to be able to even determine which types of crops they should plant, because if the season is going to be, let's say, 90 days, what business do you have planting something that's going to take 120 days to mature? It doesn't make sense. And that's how we do the collaboration with NADMO and other, let's say, disaster management organizations. If we are going to expect this amount of rain, obviously there's going to be some implications on flooding. So you should also be prepared well in advance. To the MMDAs, at what point do you also start that if we are going to expect flooding, we should start desilting our gutters? Let's say even when it comes to health, which is an area people don't normally look at. But once it begins to rain, especially with the occurrence of flooding, a lot of people draw water from wells. If there's flooding and it gets into your well, your water is contaminated. We should expect certain water related diseases. Cholera probably would be on the rise. And because there are now puddles left on the sides of the road also, you are looking at the incidence or the increase in cases of malaria, because now conditions arrive for mosquitoes. So this is where the collaboration takes place. Because I'm also expecting this amount of rainfall again, you have the Ghana Hydrological Authority. They're also going to say then model that this amount of rainfall is going to lead to flooding in these particular areas, because these river basins would overflow these gutters, and these are the projections that would be made. So every institution has its role to play. The dams and everybody will also say that this is the inflows I'm receiving based on the main rivers that feed into my dam. I can choose, let's say, Wager, to start releasing water. And when Wager is also releasing water, they still need to coordinate with the MDAs and NADMO, because there's also an implication on the communities who are downstream.
Or even to our homes. My home, we don't have water. They could just release into our homes more water.
So the collaboration needs to be there. Yeah. But for us, we start by giving the early warning information, and it should feed into
but then it will mean that
action.
If the institutions and agencies were listening to you, a lot more of these problems would have been prevented. That's the elephant in the room. I appreciate that. Because from what you're saying, if let's say Ghana Water, they know that, okay, we're going to have torrential rains in this period. They know how they're going to release the water proportionately, because then they're going to fill up. Not that we'll have a situation where homes are not getting water. There's also an overflow. The system can process it. It will have to release to the community. The community will have to be dislodged. We'll have to pay them compensation, But from where you sit, what do you think can be done to make us listen to you? Because from what you have said, if I distill the problem is that we don't listen to you. What can make us listen to you?
I think it's a matter of communication, which we are striving. And again, I'll take the lead of the PRO of the Ghana National Service. We are taking advantage of all the platforms that we have to educate the public to be able to understand the information. Because at times also I feel it's not just an issue of listening to us. But like you said, you went to our website and there's some information there that you didn't understand. Generally, we would expect that this is the format that everybody puts it inside. So how are you Ghanaians different that only you people you can't understand? But we should also appreciate that we all come from different backgrounds and the education levels are different. So now what we are trying to do is that even with the information that we put out, we are trying to categorize it. How can this person be able to pick out? Gone were the days where even our seasonal forecast will put out 50 page bulletins, and you know that no one is going to read that. How can you distill it? So for every technical document, now we come out with a shorter summary, which is a quick read with infographics and all that to make it more appealing. We're now taking a lot of GIS tools also to create platforms for those who are tech savvy to be able to go there and reach out to it. Like I said, expanding into social media and all that. I mean, this year, we did a whole, and it's not this year being the first time, but this year during our Meteorological Awareness Month, there was a lot of stakeholder outreach. And that was not just limited to Accra. Weather in Ghana is not limited to Accra. Went all the way to Sunyani, Akimoda, Takrady. And in the engagements, we are meeting market women, you are meeting regional ministers, you are meeting NADMO of directors, you are meeting MCEs, all manner. So it's a great stakeholder engagement where you are literally going on the ground, having derbers with taxi drivers, trying to get their understanding of weather information, even how they also wants to receive it, because you can assume that this channel is so good. And I'm going to say that, okay, we assume that everybody in Mempasem is probably listening to ZFM right now. It's not everybody. Someone is probably also watching us, not on radio, but live streaming, maybe on YouTube or from your website. So there are so many avenues that we are continuing to explore. For example, with our marine forecast, we give forecast to fishermen as well. So,
is it?
Yes.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Exactly. So that's why we take advantage.
What kind of forecast you give to them? That's going to rain on the sea?
So we call it the ocean state forecast.
Okay.
So before they go out to sea, we give them, we have condensed it, and that's one of the ways by which we try to make the information non-technical. We've condensed everything into an index. It's 1, 2, 3 on an increasing level of severity, and then we've color-coded it also. 1 corresponds with green, 2 with yellow, and 3 with red. Even without explaining it, you know that 3 is bad and red is bad. So even without me coming to you, there's some sort of understanding. So before you go out to sea, you can either receive this via SMS or you check, because we combine it with local knowledge also. So you have the chief fisherman who normally plants a flag at the beach. So you see a red flag and it tells you that GMET has warned us that the waves might probably be very rough. And we are using this index because they are using small canoes, and this forecast targets those artisanal fishermen when they are going out to sea. So they get that information, email, WhatsApp, on all those channels. And
but how feasible is that? Because I mean, it's understood that a lot of that industry is quite an informal and maybe semi-literate to illiterate industry. So how do they share this information if it's going to them, let's say on WhatsApp or email? If you send me an email, I may not read it.
That's why I'm saying that it's a different category of groups. So in as much as you are thinking about the fisherman, he still, if he decides to go anyway, there needs to be some intervention if he goes. So the email in this case is going to, let's say, the Ghana Navy. It's going to the Maritime Authority. It's going to the ports and harbors people also. And for their system, they are more conversant with the email as compared to, let's say, a WhatsApp group. They will still be included in those WhatsApp groups anyway, but those ones will be dedicated to those particular authorities. And you'll be surprised the number of fishermen and people who actually even prefer WhatsApp, because it's growing technology and people like to be associated with it. People always look at the convenience of that particular system to them and how to access data from that.
Still the focus on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure and business platform. We're going to take a very short break here. When we come back, we're going to hear from ADOI Alex Kinati and Dr. Williams. After all has been said and done, for us as citizens, what can we do so that we don't suffer the dire impact of the rainfall we are experiencing? Do not go away. and the role of the Ghana Meteorological Agency. So far, we've come to realize that if we all could just listen to the Meteorological Agency, a lot of our problems are going to be solved. If we could have an agency collaboration where all the different stakeholders and agencies interrely on each other, many of our problems regarding this rainfall is going to be no problem at all. As I'm going to turn to Emedui Kingnate. Now, Dr. Williams has told us that the rains are not going to get any better, at least this month and probably next month. But our lives are also at stake. You have told us that fire outbreak is also on the increase, even in this rainfall. For us as a people, what will you advise us to do? What can we do to protect ourselves?
Okay, so thank you very much again. So just as Doc had said rightfully, it's an interagency collaboration. Whenever we churn out our safety information, we tell people to always check with the Ghana Meteo for, as part of the safety precautions, always check on the Ghana Meteo for accurate weather forecast so that they're able to protect themselves. Then again, we'll also urge people that if you know where you stay, like the place you stay gets flooded easily during rains, it's important that when you see the rains, please do well to turn off your main electricity power supply to avoid any spark as a result of water coming into contact with your electricity. We'll again urge people to avoid walking during the rains. Walking during the rains can be dangerous because when there are heavy thunderstorms, it tends to bring power lines down. When these power lines come down, sometimes charged electricity wires might be on the floor. You know, electricity and water are not the best of friends. And so when they come into contact like this, you have the tendency to electrocute you if you should walk in the water. So we advise people to, as much as possible, avoid movements during the rains. We again advise people to get a qualified electrician to carry out an extensive electrical audit of their homes to be able to make sure that the rains and its accompanying fluctuations and surges can be accommodated by their electrical installations at home. You realize that there are some homes that might be 30, 40 years old, and people would still have heavy air conditioners and deep freezers in these homes, which is not the best because maybe by the 40 years ago when they built the house, air conditioners and deep freezers were not a thing. So the cables that were used were just supposed to accommodate a light electricity load, like maybe fan and then maybe the light. But now, as advancements, people are now buying air conditioners without recourse to the integrity or the strength of the cables that are used. And this can pose a damage, a grave danger. So we urge people to try and get a qualified electrician to carry out electrical audits. Check your earthing system at home. Be sure. There are people that will say that when they're electrocuted at home, they'll be like, oh, it's normal. This is my house there. If it rains, I get electrocuted. It's not normal. It can start a fire. So please get a qualified electrician to check your earthing system. And then let's go back to the past. Get a lightning arrestor so that it's able to help mitigate the risk for you during lighting.
But if we have any challenge, how do we reach the fire service?
So we have several lines, 192, 112, and we have 0302, 772, 446. What I urge people to...
Can you kindly repeat the numbers, please?
So 192.
Yes.
192, 112.
Okay.
And then 0302.
Yeah.
772.
Yeah.
446.
446. Okay.
Yes. So one thing I encourage people a lot is that get to know the closest fire station to you, because when you call, especially the 112, that's a centralized emergency line. So it goes to the central emergency line. So when you tell them your issue, then it's transferred to fire, or if it's a police issue or an ambulance issue. So the 192 comes straight to the Ghana National Fire Service, and then the landline I gave also comes straight to the Ghana National Fire Service. But then, if you know where you stay and you know the area that attends to your fires, you can call on them for prompt response, because mind you, when they call these emergency lines, they will now have to now place the call to the nearest fire station. The fire will not be waiting. So let's say if you stay around Usu, you know that our station at the national headquarters is the one that responds to you. Or if you stay close to Makola, then you know that the station at Makola responds to you. Know their numbers and call on them promptly during a fire outbreak. And when they call, they should take their time. And even on the line, I can let you test, especially the 0302, because when people even call me to report a fire emergency, that's the line that I even call and give to them, because it works. The unfortunate thing is that we are still battling and trying to deal with the problem of prank calls. And so when you call, it's just like your mobile phone. Until you leave the line, or until someone gets off the line, you can't pick another call.
Yeah.
And so when someone calls, they'll be like, my fair fire service are not that you're in fact, but someone is playing a prank. And so again, we should be each other's keeper to ensure that prank calls are reduced, because when someone is pranking us, the person is depriving you of being able to get through to us to be able to render our services to you. So we should be each other's keeper and ensure that.
But aren't you able to trace these people to bring them before the law?
So it's something that we are trying to do. But you see, the emergency lines, as I said, I would love to host you guys at our emergency call centers, and you see the number of calls that come every second. There's a call, so it makes it difficult sometimes to see them. What our call center people have resorted to do is that they've taken note of people that often call and prank, and so you see the disadvantage for them is that the day they will have a legitimate concern, a legitimate emergency, we won't be available because we know them for pranks. So we've taken cue of some of the numbers. We've given some of the numbers to the police and national security for investigation. But then again, the best form of security is being each other's keeper. When you see something, say something, and make sure that no one continues to prank us.
Mm. But also on trying to get the fire service station close to you, that information, where do we get it from? Is there a website listed with their numbers, or somewhere we can go to find out? Because if, let's say, I live at, Medina, I mean, how do I find out which station is servicing my area?
You see, so let me just chip this in lightly before I say. You see, so just like the people know the police stations, it's so unfortunate that they don't know where the fire stations is.
Yeah.
That's, people are in Ghana, as I said, when we were even talking about education, people are much more concerned about security, much more than they are of their safety. And so you realize that people move to a new site and they are crying, oh, thieves are worrying us, so we need a police station. But I never hear people say that fires are worrying us, we need a fire station.
Mm.
And it becomes a big problem. And so just as they're able to find the police stations within the area, our fire stations are, Medina, for instance, our fire station is just at close to Race Junction. Adenta, we are around the Adenta Smith housing area. You can call on the fire service and call them and ask them, oh, where's your nearest fire station? I stay in this area. Which fire station? And our call center will be glad to help you with any assistance you need.
Right, interesting, because I use those areas a lot, but I'm not sure I've noticed it. In fact, the one I know is the one at, I think, your training school, the one by St. Mary's. I mean, that's the main one I know, and I think the Makola one too. But aside that, we don't know many. But as you mentioned, there's a lot more that maybe we can also just be proactive to take advantage of it. And I guess, again, as I mentioned, maybe if we can get a bit more of education on some of these things, it also will help us, But
I'm always available to you people. Like even as I said, I'm under the weather. I'm available. So whenever your outfit needs me for education, trust me, I'll never renege on the commitment.
Well, we're very grateful for that, and I'm also going to make sure we do the arrangement to come and see the good work you guys are doing. But is there any social media? Do you have social media presence, Ghana Fire Service?
Yes, we are quite active on our social media presence. So in the past, people used to think that we don't do anything. So one thing we started to do was taking video of incident scenes. So taking videos of incident scenes for people to see the work people are doing. And so when you go there, you see some of the work people are doing with water. And obviously, it's not standard they're using. So we have there are quite some fake social media. Unfortunately, we are still trying to get the page verified. But service.
Right. Thank you very much, ADOI Alex Kingnati, and we truly appreciate your time, especially when you're a little bit under the weather, but you have proven that you are a man fit to serve the country.
Thank you very much.
Truly appreciate it. So we'll make the necessary arrangement. I think that we would have to put a lot more spotlight on the work of the fire service so that everybody can appreciate the good work you're doing. We can also be able to appreciate the hardship you are facing. Then we can find some solutions to it, because your work is very integral.
Exactly.
And we would
So
really
if you go on
need.
our Facebook page, for instance, you see educations that we are carrying out in schools, in gas stations, in other stations. So I'm sure you can equally visit our page, and then you'll be well convinced that we don't renege on our commitments to carry out our education to the people.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Dr. Williams, we want to say a word to you.
I think in the spirit of improving collaboration, we've extended also a letter to the Ghana National Fire Service. We are also trying to do a socio-economic study on the impact of weather and climate services also on the socio-economic development of the country. And we would very much like the views of the Ghana National Fire Service. So I think we are having it next week, and we would be hoping that they would honor our invitation and they'll be able to come help us dialogue and also chart a better course for Mother Ghana.
Hello, Mr. Nati?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I think it was it was just a gentle reminder from Dr. Williams to you.
Okay, I'm not privy to that letter, but when I go to the office on Monday, I'll probably try and do a follow-up, please.
Very well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, sir, and thank you once more.
Yes, sir. God bless you, sir.
All right. So I'll turn to Dr. Williams. Now, again, as I've said, we have given you your flowers. Now, I can assure we are going to be listening to you. I mean, maybe your final words to us, and how can, in terms of accessibility, as I was saying, is there a possible way of making this information a bit more accessible to us, maybe on radio stations, on sponsored ads on social media, because almost everybody is on whether Facebook or Snapchat or one of these social media platforms. Is there a way to bring this information at least to pop up on our feed, or even Google, a way to make the algorithm pick from Ghana Metro and not the worldwide one?
So Google and all other global providers are looking at a way where they have their own algorithms. Because generally anything, and that is what the public doesn't know, all the weather information is fed into a central system. So as we are the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service, they group us all under one. We represent Ghana. We have the mandates to be able to ensure the standards of the data that goes into the global system. So everything we collect at the Ghana Meteorological Agency feeds into everything at the global system, into the whole WMO framework. So if, let's say Google, let's say AccuWeather, whoever, should pick information to be able to do their forecast or their predictions, they're ultimately getting information based on our observations that they've done here. They are only just adding a few more steps, like some enhanced radar or satellite imagery, to be able to enhance what it is that they are doing. But when it comes to the observation itself, it comes based on what has been transmitted via the Ghana Meteorological Agency. And I also mentioned earlier that with our common alerting protocol, so if you go onto our website right now, we have the meteo.gov.gh/alerts. You'd see the number of alerts that are currently active over Ghana.
Okay.
So currently there's one that is happening in northern Ghana as we speak. It has entered the country through the upper east region, I think, and it's making its way a bit down south also towards the upper west regions. And it is indicated over there. So if you're on any of these Google platforms, you would have had that alert over there. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to boost our reach on most of the social media platforms.
All right, I see it. I see ongoing thunderstorms,
exactly.
severe severity.
So It should tell you the nature of what is going to happen.
The severity of the issue.
Because the severity is normally, like I said, it's categorized.
Yeah.
So you have minor,
I'm
you
seeing
have
moderate severity here too.
You would have severe, and then you'd have extreme. So these are the classifications in there. And you'd see that because you are looking at it from there, you'd have those classifications in there. The time that we were expecting it to hit, how it's making its way down, and also advisories for people living within these particular areas and how they should follow it. And also, we've been doing a lot of stakeholder engagement since last year. And one of the things that came up was how this forecast is presented and how certain people would also want to see it. So if you go onto our social media platforms, again, you see a trailer of our new refined weather forecast that we are hoping to roll out very soon. And this is something that is targeted at media houses. They can pull it up, they can display it. It gives you an indication of the symbols that we use, how to understand those symbols, and location-based forecasts. But again, I would always plead that these locations are vast. And so if I say, again, we are going to experience, let's say, rain in Accra, Accra is vast. It doesn't mean that it might not necessarily rain in Accra, but it's going to be of varying intensities across different locations within Accra. And as we go on, this is also an appeal that I keep making. In one of our initiatives that we identified as part of our Meteorological Awareness Month these days, Fire Service shared an initial concern. When people move to an area, all they care about is security. But also, everybody wants to receive forecasts for their locality. If I give you that particular forecast, what information is feeding into that forecast? Because as it sits now, we have a sparse distribution of weather observation networks. I have one in Mempasem. Maybe the next one will be at Tema. The next one is maybe at Ebri, and so on. You see how, but between Mempasem and Ebri, you have Madina, you have Adenta, you have Abokobi, you have all those areas where we are not collecting information on. As we sit here right now, maybe it stopped raining in East Legon, but it's raining currently in Osu. How do I get those observations? So we are also rolling out this initiative called the Adopt a Weather Station Initiative. We've already had institutions like UNESCO recently donating 9 weather stations to us. The FSRP project donated 20 weather stations to us. How can the district and municipal assemblies also come on board? Take that initiative where they also have weather stations situated within their premises where we are collecting information and using it to refine the forecast for those particular localities. If you go to, let's say, the Savannah region, I might possibly have only 1 or probably 2 stations there.
So the stations are like equipment
that we use it to pick.
Okay.
So if you go to our typical station, you have what you call the rain gauge. Let's go back to our primary JSS social studies. When it rains, this is what is going to collect the rainfall, and we know that maybe 20 millimeters of water is what we recorded here.
I remember that thing.
Exactly. You would have your wind vane, you have your anemometer to check the wind speeds. You'd even need to check the amount of sunshine hours. And so you see, it has implications in different sectors. If I'm measuring the amount of sunshine hours and I know that within this particular area, I'm getting, let's say, only 4 hours of sunshine hours, what business do I have going to plant solar installations there? So these are some of the implications of the information that we collect at the Ghana Meteorological Agency, which feeds into different sectors. So if I'm saying that I want to be able to create a location-based seasonal forecast, I should be able to tell you that in, let's say, Nyankpala, this season, this is the amount of rainfall we are going to get in Nyankpala, and not necessarily the whole northern half of Ghana is going to receive. It should be a bit more specific, but before you're able to do that, you need equipment to be able to give that location-based or specific forecast for these particular areas. So we'd encourage all manner of people, if ZFM you are interested, mount a weather station outside, connect with us, let us keep monitoring, and then keep giving you the updates on a regular.
But how costly is it?
It depends on the equipment that you are looking at, and that is why investments and the accuracy of data when it comes to meteorological institutions come into play. So if you are looking at radar systems, you are looking in the region of millions of US dollars. The same for automatic weather observing systems, which are very critical instruments for, let's say, aviation, for airports. Another sector that we supply weather information to is the airports. Before you land, you take off, you are flying through places, you hear of turbulence, you hear of landing conditions and all that. We provide that information. And not just for Ghana. We have a space called the Accra Flight Information Region, which goes way beyond Ghana. And we provide the weather information for all these particular areas. You need radars to be able to detect the rain-bearing clouds and the trajectory at which they are moving to see whether this rain that is coming, that GMET has predicted, is it really going to rain or not, or is it just going to bypass me and go and rain elsewhere? So these are the typical investments that you need. And also, like you were saying, these are the equipment that we're using in the 90s, rainfall recorder. It is there. So when it rains, then someone will go and point and measure it. These days, there are more modern equipment, automatic weather stations. As the event is happening, it's measuring and it's transmitting it directly. When someone is measuring, okay, depending on even the age of the staff, if his eyesight is not even good in trying to read, he's reading at a different level before he communicates it, because he's taking it on a form, he's taking a phone, he's calling a district office to say maybe we recorded 56 millimeters of rain. The person who is on the other end also had 66, has put it in the records. This is how we are also trying to eliminate some of the errors that come with the reporting and the observations that are being made.
So I see that from what you're saying, you're doing excellent job, but now less resources, which will have to appeal to the necessary bodies to assist you. Because as I'm saying, as for this year, that we have seen that we need GMET. We really need the services you are offering us. And you've given us your social media handles as on X, Ghana Meteorological Agency, same for YouTube, IG, TikTok, LinkedIn. I think I just followed you on X. We're hoping to get the latest updates for you, and also the meteo.gov.gh also /alerts. I think alerts. That gives us some good. But is there a call line we can reach you if we need to have or want to invite you for any stakeholder consultation, or we need some critical information from you?
So generally, for all invitations, normally we have the email addresses that you normally write to, as we have a couple of numbers that usually are for forecasting. We have a number for client services. We have a number for the forecasting office as well. So one of the numbers that you can use to reach out is a 030-277-7172. So again, it's 020-277-172.
Okay. But by mentioning client service, do you provide private services?
Yeah, so our client service unit, normally we collate information that is needed. People would come normally requesting for data. They want data, let's say, depending on different sectors. So for road construction, he wants to see the number of rainy days, the intensity, duration, and frequency of the rainfall. This is going to help him model his culverts, the thickness of the asphalt he's going to lay. For insurance companies, they will come, how many days did it rain? Was it enough to cause flooding? If it did, someone is reporting that his car was carried away. Did it truly rain? Or his house, to make a claim. So this is how they also come and verify some of this information. For different sectors, let's say for banks and other things, for seasonal forecast, someone is coming to take a loan. Should we expect that the season is going to be good? If I give this loan to this person, I might probably lose my capital, because if I say that there's going to be a dry spell, he's going to lose his crops. There's no point investing so much in his business at the time. So these are various organizations, and especially when it comes to academia, who are doing a lot of research. On a daily, you are processing so many requests for data. And for planning events and stuff like that, a lot of people also don't consider it, because this weekend, imagine you have a funeral, you've mounted canopies, you've done decor, you are also planning an outdoor wedding activity. It rains, the whole thing is destroyed. So you need to be able, people would reach out requesting the forecast for that particular day, whether it's suitable for their events to be able to happen or not. For concerts, which are mainly outdoors, you have a stadium event for. These are some of the requests that come.
But these private requests, do we pay, or is part of your civic responsibility to us?
So usually most of our information, which we call the public weather, what we give out 4 times a day and all that, the seasonal forecast, these are normally given out for free. For private requests, because there's a commercial aspect to it, it's regulated by the Fees and Charges Act of Parliament. So based on defined pricing regimes, we are able to give it out. And especially for academic research, it is highly subsidized for students.
Okay. And before I let you give your final words, I just think of, especially when you speak of the funerals, I think of the rural areas, the villages. How do you get your information to them? And they are also very governed by their customary practice. So when they're having a funeral, I know they'll probably go and pour libation somewhere that the elements should be held so that it doesn't rain. So how do you manage these ones?
Okay, there's always the conflict between science and society and their traditional practices. And in certain areas, there's nothing that you can do about it, because people would typically want to maintain their traditions, and that is to everyone his own. But what we try to do as much as possible is to integrate some of this information, and that is why it shouldn't be too different. Because if, let's say, for the information to the fishermen, before we started, someone will tell you, as for him, he doesn't need your information. If he wakes up in the morning, he sticks his toe in the water, he knows how the sea is going to be.
Exactly.
So I'm not asking you to take that. I'm only asking you to compare with what we are giving you. And because we are also very careful, this forecast is based on probability. So I also have to let you understand that there's a chance, or there's even a chance that it might not happen. These days I use the analogy of betting. If it goes your way, it's good, you've won. But the whole thing is that with meteorology, we are just trying to make sure that the probability is high enough for you to be able to make a decision. But the decision ultimately lies with you. We are only advising you based on what we've seen. Do not take this particular action. So in those communities, you combine it with what they already know, like the concept of the flags, where they cannot also reach the information. We've done several outreaches to what we call these community radios. So you relay the information to them. They have these huge PA systems and speakers, and during certain times of the day, they announce that. And we are looking how to expand it to other communities also, to make sure that the wider population is getting access to this information.
Right. I mean, good work you're doing at the Metro. I mean, is there anything we as a Station Z we can do to help promote your awareness in your campaign? As I say, you're doing excellent work, but it looks like it's not reaching the masses.
I mean, and that is why we are very thankful for the platform that we've gotten today. If not for anything, we are reaching the masses even as we speak to them. We are hoping that people are listening to this information. And once we also get any other information, we would plead that we are able to, once we relay it to you, you give out that information as quickly as you can. We've had certain challenges in the past, and you see some of these things have also contributed to the negative image of the agency. We could have issued a forecast, let's say our morning forecast comes at 5 a.m. Someone can wait till 1 p.m. when that forecast is no longer valid, and is now putting it on their social media. So this is directly contradicting what the agency is saying, because there could have been an update in the afternoon forecast which was released at 11 a.m. So if you are now putting out this information, in this time of AI and social media, people concoct a lot of things, and if you are not careful, we'll even create certain dummy accounts, link it to the agency, and be circulating all manner of falsehoods. A clear example is a message I got yesterday. I'm just trying to get it so I can read it for you, which someone forwarded to me. And it says that we are going to experience some serious rains. I don't know if you've seen it. This afternoon, that was yesterday, says if you don't have anything extremely important to do in town on Friday, 12 June, please do not venture out. And those residing in flood-prone areas, take urgent plan. The rains on this day will be something we've never experienced in this country before. This was a message that was forwarded to me, creating all matter of fear and panic. And if an information related to flooding and severe rainfall is going out, obviously it would have come from the Ghana Meteorological Agency, but we clearly had no knowledge of this. So this issue of a lot of people posting fake videos, AI generated content and all of that, and linking it to the Ghana Meteorological Agency more or less goes to diminish the image and the credibility. And once people do not more or less trust the information that you are giving out, no matter what you do, people do not want to accept it. And we also hope that people who we push our information to, please communicate it as it is released so that it goes out quickly.